Welcome, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. And happy summer, everybody. Summer just started on Sunday. And thank you for joining us for the next event in our 5th annual 21st Century New Media Best Practices webinar training series, namely Instagram for Health. And my name is Lisa Peterson, probably a familiar voice for some of you. And for those that are new to this series, I'm a new media education specialist with the sponsors of our event, which is the Center for Public Health Practice and the Center for Health Leadership here at UC Berkeley School of Public Health. And I just want to mention, please be sure to let us know in the chat box if you're having any trouble hearing us or any other audio or tech issues, and we'll try to troubleshoot those for you. I just want to say that I'm really excited about today's topic, especially following on our last session around using Pinterest and thinking about how to use these visual photo sharing platforms. And when we think about Instagram for public health, I think it's similar to Pinterest in that it's still a pretty much newish tool for many of us in public health and healthcare. And yet it has really great potential for visual storytelling, for engaging with our stakeholders, with the communities we serve, and also for creating some emotional connections to who we are as organizations and the work that we're doing, and also hopefully to be able to connect with the impact that we hope to have. So what I have here is just a few statistics, some of the latest and greatest, both from Instagram and a recent report from the Pew Research Center in 2015. You can see there's a lot of growth in terms of usage overall, and some of the other, notably we see here young adults as well as some other numbers that emerged from the report, were that women are particularly likely to be on Instagram as well as young adults. And interestingly also some communities of color like Hispanics and African Americans, and those that live in urban or suburban environments. And I'll share in the chat box a link to these reports so you can see them and some other resources to learn more about how this tool is being used and some of the other important statistics, which I think are important to consider when we're thinking, you know, how best to reach and connect with our audiences. And speaking of which, just a little bit about who you're going to be hearing from about that today. We have Megha Savla, who's the Executive Director of Marketing at the Pediatric AIDS Coalition at UCLA, who'll be joined by Ashley Dinielli, who's a Social Media Manager at UCLA Health. And we're really excited to have some UC partners chiming in the conversation here. And I'll be in the background, tech support kind of behind the curtain, but also helping to facilitate our conversation together. And where we're going to go, we're going to start out hearing from Megha from the Pediatric AIDS Coalition. We'll have some time for some Q&A. And then we're going to hear from Ashley at UCLA Health, and then some Q&A after that. And as I mentioned, the chat box you can use to the left there to put any tech issues, but also any questions or comments that you might have for our presenters. And we will moderate that as we go along. And just a few other items in terms of housekeeping. Everyone is on mute. And in case you unmute your phone, please be sure to mute it by entering *6. As I said, the chat box is really our tool for engaging with one another. And I also want you to be encouraged to share any best practices that you have, examples of resources and tools, tutorials, etc., that you think would be helpful for others on the call. And we'll be sure to share that in the resources document after the event. And in addition to that, we will be sharing links to the recording, to the slides, and any other resources with everyone after the event. And speaking of conversations, please use our hashtag if you're on Twitter now to join the conversation and share what you're learning with others. I encourage you to do that. And before I introduce our first presenter, Megha, we have a poll here. We just want to get a temperature read on who is currently using Instagram in your work. If you can go ahead and answer the poll for us, let's take a look. And thank you for everybody, the feedback that you gave us during the registration. That really helped us to learn a little bit about where everyone's at, and we wanted the opportunity for everyone to see a little bit about who's in the room, so to speak. And it looks like we have some folks, a good third using Instagram personally, but not yet in their work. And while about a quarter are using it in work, half of us aren't yet. So this is great that we're gathering here together today to learn from some organizations that are doing it well and learn a little bit about how they're doing that. What tools are they using? What kind of strategies are they going to share with us that we can use in our own work? And also, somebody asked about the hashtag. I'm just going to share that here, CHLNM15, to use that hashtag. And before we hand it over to Megha, let me share a little bit about Megha Savla, who's our first presenter, and I'm really honored to have her here. She's been a member of the Pediatric AIDS Coalition at UCLA for the past 2 years. And after getting her start as a member of the catering committee, Megha went on to become the director of publicity in her second year. And this upcoming year, she's going to be acting as the executive director of marketing for the Pediatric AIDS Coalition, and she couldn't be more excited, and I bet, Megha, you couldn't be more busy, which is, we're so happy to have you here. Let me go ahead and take you off mute here. Are you there, Megha?
Hi.
Great. Take it away.
All right. So you guys heard my little introduction. So my name is Megha, and I'm the Executive Director of Marketing for the Pediatric AIDS Coalition at UCLA. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about who we are and why we chose Instagram, and then kind of how we've evolved to make it a really effective tool for our cause. So who am I? I'm a third-year student at UCLA, and at this point we've mentioned the Pediatric AIDS Coalition a few times, so you're probably wondering what that is. So I'll give you guys a brief little description there. So the Pediatric AIDS Coalition at UCLA is a group of about 140 students. We put on a huge fundraising event each year called Dance Marathon. Dance Marathon is a 26-hour dance-a-thon where we raise funds and awareness for the fight against pediatric HIV and AIDS. So in its 14-year history, we've raised close to $4.5 million, and this is the largest student-run philanthropy on the West Coast. So this is a photo from Dance Marathon 2015, and this just kind of shows what our reach is. We have about 3,000 people come through our event each year with about 1,000 dancers, and then our 140 students who are on committee who plan the entire event. And this is just another little photo, just some of the things that we do throughout the year. So you're probably wondering, why does it matter? So our cause is important because we're trying to eliminate the stigma and incidence of pediatric HIV and AIDS. So why is this our cause? We chose this because pediatric HIV/AIDS is entirely preventable. So what you can read on the slide, that's 100% true. With the proper education and resources, no child has to be born with an HIV-positive status, which is pretty amazing, and that's why we fight for our cause. So how are we able to do this and make our cause seem as important to others as it is to us? One of our biggest draws is social media. So we use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Snapchat, BuzzFeed, whatever is new and up and coming and people are looking at, we try to get involved there. Our target audience obviously is in the college age range, but most of our donors are adults, people's parents, family, friends, things like that. And so it's important to appeal to kind of all different kinds of audiences. So all of these different types of social media are great outlets. Okay, so one of the things that we struggled with initially with social media was our branding. We wanted to turn away from looking like an amateur student group to really the large-scale philanthropy that we are. Although we are all students and it's 100% student-run, we still want to come across professional, and we're dealing with big corporate sponsors and different professional outlets like that, whether it's newspapers, celebrities, corporate sponsors, as I mentioned. So we wanted to move away from looking sort of amateur and just making a more professional brand. So these bright yellow highlighter shirts that you see in the photo are kind of our namesake around the UCLA campus. If you see that bright yellow highlighter color, you know that it's for the Pediatric AIDS Coalition. So we kind of thought, okay, how do we transfer this presence that we have physically on campus and kind of bring it in to our social media and our graphics and our flyers and kind of all of our print media, and make it so that when people see our flyers, like they see our shirts, they know, okay, this is PAC and this is what they're doing. So this started with the creation of our logo. So this, we kind of streamlined this. We picked a 4 or 5 color palette, and then those are the things we stick with. These are the colors we stick with for all of our designs and graphics, and this is the logo that goes on all of our social media and all of our t-shirts and things like that as well. This is just another fun graphic we did. This is our lineup for the past year, and so although it doesn't look exactly the same, you can still see that some of these things are still streamlined. You know that it's Dance Marathon, you know that it's PAC. The color scheme is similar and different things like that, so we kind of stuck with that. And then this is one of our graphics I wanted to show you guys because both our Facebook and Instagram are listed at the bottom of the graphic. So as you'll see later on in our slides as well, we tend to put the links to all of our social media on all of our websites, and are present on all of our flyers, print media, and graphics. So that's a great way to keep people connected, not only through Instagram, but we can say, oh, we have an Instagram, but we also have a Facebook. Okay, so why we chose to use Instagram. For us, this was a great tool for visual storytelling. This is a great way. It's quick. It's easy. You can just scroll through the feed really quick and really see what's going on in our organization. And another thing for us that was really important was that this is cost effective. Because we're a nonprofit, we don't have a lot of money to spend on our publicity. It really comes down to a budget of 0. So what we really had to do is we use social media as a way that we can get a lot of information and a lot of what we're doing out there, but we don't have to spend any money on it. And I think that's a really great thing, especially for health causes, because you're typically not trying to spend money where you don't need to. This was also important. It reached our target audience. People who are on Instagram are young and interested in what we were doing if they're following us. So that was a great way for us to share what is going on in our organization for those people that are interested to keep updated. And then it's also a great segue into our other social media, such as our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of those different things. And then this was a great way for us to keep interactive not only with our beneficiaries, but other organizations that are trying to accomplish similar goals. Because you can tag other organizations, you can use hashtags and things like that and get the conversation going about specific topics. So now I'm going to move into kind of how we used to use Instagram. So these are some of our older Instagrams that are still on our page and are mostly there for historical purposes, but that just really weren't as effective and popular and just really didn't get that much attention. And then I'll show you guys how we tried to change that to improve our activity on Instagram and to keep our followers more engaged. So if you see this first photo, I included it. It's a little amateur. It's not great lighting. It's a really cool shirt, but you just really can't tell. The design doesn't even look that interesting. And you can see over on the right that it doesn't even have 10 likes, which is unfortunate because this was our fundraising apparel for that year, and it just didn't really get great attention. This is another Instagram. This is from Dance Marathon 2012. And so it's the same thing. It's poor lighting, not a great photo, kind of blurry. It really just doesn't make people want to look at it. And then this is one of our graphics, an older graphic. So I love this graphic. I think it looks great. I think it's interesting. It's fun to look at, and it shows we're fun and we're still students, and apply to join our cause kind of thing. The only thing is you can't really tell that it is for the Pediatric AIDS Coalition, other than the fact that there are AIDS ribbons and it says the Pediatric AIDS Coalition right in the middle. So what we have kind of tried to do in the last few years is streamline our design so that you don't even have to read any of the words to realize, oh, that design is from PAC, and this is probably what's going on around this type of year. So moving forward, I'm going to move into what we've tried to do in the last couple of years and streamlining and all of that. So this is one of our Instagrams from the last year, and this is just like a generic graphic to register for Dance Marathon. So we use the same font, we use the same color scheme, and always at the bottom of our graphics are the Instagram handle and the Facebook handles. And then I put this next image here to show that though these are for two different things, you can tell that they're really similar designs. So even if somebody didn't stop to read both of these graphics, they would be able to tell that this is from PAC. And that kind of visual recognition is what's really important on Instagram. So I'm seeing some questions here. I'll just address them really quick. Okay, so for our graphics, we have a design committee that makes them. So they actually mock these up all from scratch using graphic design programs on the computer. So I know they're using Photoshop and things like that pretty frequently. And then, our Instagram account is, I'll type it in the chat box so that you guys can scroll through it right now. But I'll keep moving through these slides also. Sorry about that. So these are just more of our Instagrams. This is one of our performers from the past year. You can just tell it's just a much higher quality photo, looks nicer, and it's something people want to look at. This is our executive board from the past year. It's a similar thing. These photos have just turned out a lot nicer. People tend to like photos where they know their friends are in them, of people's faces, as opposed to graphics and things like that. So if possible, we tend to steer away from graphics. Obviously, we have to use some of those ones that I showed you earlier for information purposes, just to get the links to our website, how to register, things like that out there. But more often than not, we might try to include those links in our captions and try to choose more engaging and interesting photos, which I think are a lot more engaging when they have people in them. And then the last thing I wanted to show you, and I'll bring up the link to this video, is that Instagram video has actually been a huge hit for us. And I'm going to share you on my screen in a second here. Okay. And I'm just going to go to our Instagram page here and play this video for you. You won't get any sound, but that's okay. It's a slow-mo video, so it doesn't sound great anyway. So this is from a fundraiser we did where you could pie one of our committee members in the face. So this video, it's funny, it's lighthearted, it's fun, and you can watch it over and over again. It's funny to see somebody get pied in the face. So that's why we chose to do that, and it was just a little bit more interesting. Okay, and I'm going to switch back Okay, sorry, just one second. Okay, here we go. Okay, so yeah, these are the stills from our video. But, so yeah, the videos we found to be a lot more engaging, so we've been definitely trying to use more videos on our Instagram and definitely throughout our other social media as well. And then one of the more important things that we've been doing for the last few years is to choose an official hashtag for each year. Typically we do hashtag UCLA DM 20 and then fill in the blank for the year. So this past year it was hashtag UCLA DM 2015. So this is something that we started to use at the beginning of the year and it's carried on throughout. And it's great because then we can compile all of our photos and everything under one hashtag. So we can see who's talking about us, and it's a great way for us to filter through and see what people are posting from our event, what things were successful, and things like that. And a great thing also for that is to do like photo contests or giveaways to say the best photo with the hashtag UCLA DM 2015 could win a free morale shift or something like that. Then it's just a great way to get people looking at your social media outlet and to keep them engaged and interacting with your social media because getting tags and hashtags really popularizes your page. All right. So social media has definitely helped us out. As I was saying, in the last few years, we've really tried to professionalize and streamline our brand. But this has increased our activity not only on our Instagram, but all of our social media. So right now we're at about 750 Instagram followers and averaging over 100 likes on every photo, which is just a great amount of attention. And then we have two Facebook pages, one for the Pediatric AIDS Coalition and one for Dance Marathon. And both this year broke 2,000 likes. And these big spikes in followers and likes really occurred when we professionalized our brand and kind of made everything we have a little bit more consistent and really put in the effort to have higher quality photos and pick things that people would want to look at. And so then this is just a list of tips that I've gathered that I think helped us as an organization and I think could be really helpful to others. So definitely when we first started posting, we got nervous about posting too frequently. We thought we might be annoying or people would unfollow us if we were posting too often and things like that. But realistically, people probably follow a couple hundred people on Instagram, and scrolling through, they're not going to get annoyed by just another photo. So in the past year, we tried to post every other day, and we realized that we could even go more frequently than that. So that's just a great way to keep followers updated on what you're doing and keep them engaged. Another thing that we've done, as I was saying, was to get higher quality photos. So maybe instead of taking photos on an iPhone quality camera, we took it on a digital camera. And that was something I thought was a great investment. Although it is just a small square and you can't zoom in or anything like that, you can really tell the difference with photos that came from a nicer lens. And then as I was saying, videos are a lot more engaging. People will watch them over and over again. It's just a great way to keep your followers engaged. And then what I was saying earlier, how we had streamlined and professionalized our brand was to really come up with a recognizable kind of design aesthetic. And that was one of the ways I saw here that somebody asked how we professionalized. So that was definitely one of the ways that we professionalized our brand, was really taking a design aesthetic that people would recognize regardless of if they stopped to read what was going on. It's social media. Sometimes people just move past things. But just for someone to even recognize that our organization has posted something is giving us a little bit more attention. And I think that's what this is all about, is kind of grabbing people's attention, even if just for a second, for them to know what we're doing. And if we intrigue them, then hopefully they'll look for more and look for ways to get involved. And that's really kind of the end goal. And then the last thing about this, I think the importance of professionalizing our social media really reflected on our organization as a whole. Because if you are posting photos or posts that look like you didn't put much effort or care into them, then it might look like you don't care about what you're doing, and that would be probably the worst thing. You want people to trust that you're taking the time and care with everything related to your organization as you would with what your cause is. And I think that's just a great way to show that you care and you're professionals and you're going to accomplish your goals, that kind of thing. So I think that was important definitely for us, especially as students. People might not take us as seriously from the get-go, so if we're able to show, our organization is very serious, look at our media outlets, things like that, it's very professional, then people are more inclined to take us seriously and help us out, which is really great. And then what I would say is the most important tip is to give people a way to connect to your cause, to share your stories and make people care because it is important. So obviously each of you care about your health cause for any number of reasons, and you have to make other people care. And I think Instagram is a great tool for that because it's a great way to engage people through photos. So my last two little slides here are just, these are some of our ambassadors. They come to our event in the fall, they come to our event in the spring, but we're in touch with them from the fall, and they are campers at a camp that we help fund with our fundraising from the year. So you see these faces on your Instagram feed, and you're not going to want to just scroll past them. You're going to want to stop and wonder, what is PAC doing with these kids? And in the captions, we let people know who they are, and we tell them their stories, and it's just a way to really have give people a reason to care, which I think is important. Okay, so those are all my slides.
Great. Thank you, Mega.
No problem.
Excellent. We have a really rich discussion going on already in the chat box and some wonderful questions. So we are going to do our best to get to some of them here. And let's see, we had a question from kind of on the logistics side. Carrie had a question about how often do you recommend posting? Because she brings up the example of how with Facebook, posts frequently get buried very quickly. So if you could address maybe how Instagram might be different and how often do you recommend posting?
So Instagram definitely is different. On Facebook, the advantage you have is the news feed. So things that are popular continue to get pulled back up to the top of the news feed, or if somebody recently liked something, it'll get pulled back up to the top of the news feed, and you don't have that on Instagram. On Instagram, everything is based purely on timing. So if you posted it 2 hours ago, it will sit on your news feed in the same spot as 2 hours ago and continue to get buried by everything that is posted more recently. So for that reason is why I would suggest posting on Instagram pretty frequently. We aim to post once a day, but we won't post if there's nothing to post about, because I think that's the point at which people get annoyed, is when it seems as if an organization is posting for no reason. So I think definitely if you have a reason to post every day and you have graphics or photos or videos or anything you want to share, then every day or even maybe once or even twice a day is not too frequent. But I would try to keep it in that range, maybe once a day.
Great, thanks. And related to that, Livia had a great question, which I'm sure is coming to mind and thinking about. I mean, this event is massive, and you spoke early on being part of a team. Can you, we're curious how the Instagram efforts and maybe coordinating it as part of a multi-channel effort, how do you coordinate and manage that? Is that done by one person on the team, or do you have a team that collaborates in terms of production and posting and creating the content?
Yeah, so for the structure of our committee, so I'm the executive director of marketing, and then I work with a group of 4 directors below me. And so 2 of those directors are the directors of public relations and the director of publicity. And so those two directors are the ones I communicate most closely with on social media. But it really is a collaborative effort. At the beginning of each year, we'll sit down and we'll make a marketing schedule. And we'll know, we pretty much know from now what we'll be posting all the way into Dance Marathon 2016. So I think what was really important for us was establishing a marketing schedule, kind of a calendar of events for our year and what we have to do to publicize those events. There are certain times of the year for us that are going to be more busy, things like when we really push registration or the week before the event when we're really pushing people to fundraise. And so things like that we definitely keep in mind that our social media will definitely be more amped up. We'll be posting multiple times a day on all outlets and things like that. But we know that now, which is really great. So I think sitting down and making a marketing schedule is really a great way to go through. And then that way we're able to preemptively find photos and videos to share for specific things. So it's not like we're throwing together these graphics really last second. We know exactly what we want on them and the way we want them to look and everything weeks beforehand.
Thanks. And Rachel had kind of a related question in terms of, she's calling in from Hawaii, and they don't yet have the dance marathons come back yet in Hawaii, and not on Maui where she's at, but loves what you're doing and wants to know in terms of what other event types have you found Instagram to be useful for promoting, or it might be what other types of sharing of content have you found Instagram to be particularly salient for?
I honestly think it's pretty helpful for pretty much anything. I'm even thinking of like the restaurants near UCLA and things like that promote like their deals on Instagram, or the other organizations at UCLA that promote their events through Instagram, or really just what they have going on. I think it's a better way to show through photos and video. It's much more engaging to a viewer who is on social media probably for 10 minutes, just killing time. It's just a quick and easy way to keep people updated. And so I don't really think it's specific to a particular type of event, but you definitely should cater to your audience and definitely what your cause or your event is.
And Megha, in thinking about that, Lizette had a question. What do you think is the benefit for those types of things that you mentioned of using a tool like Instagram over another like Facebook?
I'm actually a big fan of Facebook, and we're able to get a lot of our reach on Facebook as well. So I kind of like to use Instagram as it's kind of like a code tool. So it's a really great way for us to put photos and videos out there, but it's also a great way to direct people to our Facebook and Twitter and things like that to bring attention to those sites because we're able to put a lot more information on Facebook. On Instagram, your captions can be as long as you want, but really, realistically, your followers are probably only going to read the first part of it that they can, because if your post gets too long, they kind of cut you off and put a ... and a lot of people might not read past the ... So I think kind of using Instagram and things like Facebook and Snapchat and Twitter and all of that together has been really what's helped us out, using one to promote the other kind of thing.
I'm glad you mentioned Snapchat, because Luis early on had a question about if you could share a little bit about how what you would use Snapchat for. I don't know if it's something that you could share your desktop for, and we could probably just share it in a resources doc after in terms of examples, but anything in terms of using Snapchat over Instagram or with Instagram in terms of outreach into the community?
So I was actually looking for an example of this, but I couldn't find any. We got in contact with Snapchat before our event to have a geotag for the day of our event. So our design committee was able to make up a really nice graphic that you could put at the bottom of a Snapchat and then post to your story or send to other people. And that was more of kind of like a fun thing. I don't know if it was in any way a concrete help to our cause or our fundraising, to be honest. But I mean, it was fun, and it got our name out there on campus, and people are like, oh, that dance marathon thing is going on right now, because the geotag was coming up on their phone. So in that sense, it helped with community outreach and letting them know, like, oh, we've been hearing about this for the past 6 months, and now it's actually happening. But I think Instagram would definitely be a more effective tool as far as like actually being informative and sharing stories and things like that. And Snapchat is just more kind of fun. So that was like a fun thing for us. But I don't know, I'm interested to see how that app continues to do different and new things, and maybe it could be a more effective tool in the future.
Great, thank you. And kind of related to what you mentioned in terms of creating graphics, we've had quite a few questions just talking about, well, what design programs do you use for your images? And in terms of putting together the graphics, I think someone mentioned this one here. If there was, let's see, how exactly did you create it? Maybe if you could share some of the kind of go-to tools or resources in terms of helping some of us that are, not design or tech design aficionados. What kind of tips or tools that you use you could share with us?
So for us, also in my marketing committee, I have a director of design. So their job throughout the year is the whole design aesthetic, which is, it's a really cool experience because the whole marketing committee kind of works together, like publicity, public relations, design, to pick the aesthetic for the year and to stick with that. So this is an older graphic, so it doesn't fit with our like streamlined look that we're doing now. But I know that most of these designs are being made on like graphic design software. So I know we're using Photoshop. I'm not 100% sure what else we're using because I don't have to particularly create these designs. What I think is important about them is what I was saying earlier about picking a color scheme and picking similar fonts so that everything looks more streamlined as opposed to a kind of like schizophrenia of really cool designs that don't really go together.
And Mega, is this would be an example of that, this one here?
Yeah, so this is from this past year. And I can flip. So sorry about that. I'll keep that there. So this is one of our ones from the past year, along with these two. Mm-hmm. And so they look different, but you'll notice that they still have a series of consistencies that make it very obvious that they're from our organization.
Excellent. And I see, too, that when you say make it obvious, there's ways that it makes it easy for folks to connect with you and learn more through the social tools like Facebook and Instagram down at the bottom there, and really speaking to the branding that you talk about. It looks like, Lydia, you had a question you wanted to, if you want, you can unmute your phone, Lydia, by doing *7. And I'll try and see if I can find you.
Hello.
Hi, Lydia.
Hi, how's it going? We had a question in regards to how you build up your followers. How did you recruit them? How did you get them to sign up or follow you?
So for us, sorry?
I had a question about hashtags as well, but.
Oh, okay. I'll just go through this really quick, and then we can do that one. So for followers, it is a little bit difficult, but for us, we kind of just try to engage the audience that that we know this event appeals to, which is mostly UCLA students. So by getting involved with other organizations, things like co-programming and things like that, when we were tagged in another organization's photo or tagged in the caption of another organization, that really brought us a lot more popularity and things like that. I think interacting with organizations that are doing a similar thing to you and your cause and what you're working towards is definitely a great way. And then, yeah, the use of hashtags I think is really, really important as well, because even when in the summer, we don't post as frequently just because we're not in school and we have less events going on. We even are consistently getting followers throughout the summer, a couple a day, and it's because of these. If you look at hashtag UCLADM 2014, hashtag UCLADM 2015, we have these huge amounts, like thousands of photos from people who danced or people who participated, and people are looking at this and consistently seeing this hashtag and realizing it's connected to our page, and are able to go there and find out more and things like that. So I think hashtags are really important as well. But I would definitely say like organizations.
So on that note, hello?
Hello?
Yes, and on that note, as far as hashtags, can you talk a little bit more about hashtags? We've had the experience where we've used hashtags on Facebook and on Instagram, but we don't see the hashtags when we do a search for them. So maybe you can explain to that point to us, or is there an issue with people's privacy as far as their settings for their accounts?
Yeah, definitely. So for hashtags that you choose, they won't come up on the stream unless the person who posts them has a public account. So that can definitely be a problem if most of your audience has private accounts. I think one of the ways around this is to, depending on what your organization is, to maybe pick one hashtag, and then that way you're able to build upon that hashtag. Because even if something was posted 2 years ago and say hashtag UCLADM 2013, if I posted a photo tomorrow with that hashtag, it would still come up with that those 2 years worth of photos. So I think something like that, like picking one thing and keeping consistent with it, can give you at least a repertoire of photos to choose from, or at least when it gets searched, it'll look like there's a lot more things coming up. But yeah, there are privacy settings on Instagram that won't allow photos to come up when you filter for hashtags.
Thanks, Megha. I'm just going to, I think I'm going to nudge us forward a little bit. Thank you so much for your presentation and for the lively Q&A there. Some excellent information and some really great strategies and tips for us to take up and really weave well into our next presentation with Ashley. So for anybody that we weren't able to get to your questions yet, we'll try and do that at the end of Ashley's presentation. And if not, we'll also add some tips in our resources doc. So thanks very much for all the participation for Q&A in the chat box. And before we move forward, I just want to dip in a little bit and check in. What are some of the challenges you're experiencing in using Instagram? Let us know. Is it just getting started? Is it knowing what to do once you get started? Is it having those resources, whether that's time or staff, having the ability to go out and take those wonderful pictures? Let us know. Great. And it looks like knowing how to understand that you're actually having impact, that this is landing and making a difference is a big one. as well as having the resources. And we do have those that are getting started. So hopefully, a lot of the conversation thus far and where we continue to go is going to be helpful to help you think about taking baby steps, just getting started with a little bit and moving forward. And in light of that, I think that hearing from our next presenter is going to help build some repertoire there and getting started. And I'm very honored to introduce Ashley Daniele, who's the social media manager for UCLA Health. She leads the development and implementation of the UCLA Health social media strategy, as well as managing UCLA Health's live streaming webinar series and the maintenance of the UCLA Health digital presence internally and externally. I think Ashley's got a lot going on, and I think that hints to what was in the poll there as having the resources, that's having the bandwidth, having the team to do the work. So Ashley also serves as a board member of the Healthcare Public Relations and Marketing Association in Southern California, and she received her BA in Healthcare Administration from Cal State University at Long Beach. So let me get Ashley on board here. Ashley, are you there?
I'm here.
Great.
Thank you for introducing me, and thank you all for joining us today. So I'm going to kind of give you a snapshot of what we have been doing on Instagram and what we find to be effective and not effective using Instagram. So I'll just jump right in. So we started using Instagram in late 2012. And just some background for Instagram, it began in 2010, and it started introducing video in 2013. Currently, we have about almost 6,000 followers on our Instagram page. It's taken a while to get there. It definitely didn't happen overnight. And we tend to share our programs, department news, health observances, events, physician employee news, patient stories, a little bit of everything there. Because it is a digital or a visual platform, we use anything that has great imagery to tell a story. I think that that's probably one of the biggest components of having social media and Instagram in particular, is that you want to make sure that you have a strategy. I mean, I know a lot of you had answered some of those questions earlier about, how do you show if you're making an impact? Well, it depends on what your impact for your social program is. I think in general, you really need to think about what you want. It's not just about likes, it's about engagement, how many people are actually engaging with you. And there are ways to kind of figure out if those people that are clicking on your photos or liking on Instagram or Facebook are kind of coming through your other channels, but it gets really cumbersome in trying to find that information. So we really focus on the engagement on our social presence. So just a little bit about how much we posted. In 2012, we had 8 posts, and then just kind of continued growing by there. When we first started using Instagram, we really didn't utilize it that much. But then in 2013, 2014, and currently, we really decided to really put a strategy behind what we're sharing and why we're sharing it. You can see right here, in 2014, we barely had 300 followers, and then it jumped up to 711 followers in 2014. And then in 2014, really at the end of last year is really when we decided to really put together a strong strategy and a really good campaign to help increase our followers. And let's see, just in January we had over 2,500 followers, so it continues to grow. I think one of the biggest things we started to do when we really started to try to create more engagement is started to follow other people. We also started following and finding our influencers, also started finding people tagging us and posting about us through hashtags, because not everyone knows that our Instagram is out there. We also make sure that we include our Instagram in all of our social media icons on almost all of our publications. We feature it throughout our hospitals and our clinics. We really try to make sure that we are keeping our social media on top of mind when folks are coming to the hospital or going in for their appointments or just looking for information. We also incorporate all of our social channels kind of talk with one another. We streamline a lot of what we do so that we're not always sharing the same content, but it's specifically tailored to each network. So Facebook, we do sometimes use hashtags there, but not so much because it's not 100% being utilized, but making sure that we use a lot of hashtags on our Instagram page. We also really tried to get our employees to be our social ambassadors. So we started linking a lot of our employee news or photos that we were sharing to our social networking sites so that they weren't just on websites, but they had to go to our Facebook page or our Instagram page to see, the images from the events or from different things that we were doing. And then we also created, and this was kind of the big thing, was our hashtag It Begins With You patient and employee stories campaign. And that's when it really started to take off and our engagement really started to increase. So our It Begins With You is actually part of our tagline, and it really does begin with our patients and all of our stakeholders that we have here at UCLA Health. And it also started with our CEO at the time, who really, really, really liked the Humans of New York campaign and how they told these incredible patient or people stories just through images and a little blurb. So we tried to figure out how we were going to replicate this or kind of make it our own. So we then hired a freelance photojournalist and a writer, or actually she writes too, and an agency to really help us really hone things in. We selected departments and programs, employees and events that we could feature. So every week our photojournalist goes out to different departments that we've selected or we've heard about, or we know about events that are happening, and we'll send her to these events where she'll collect 5 or 6 different stories and images and then send them back to our content creation group that'll go back and edit them or tweak the story if we need to. We create these catchy kind of headlines that kind of pull people in to make it engaging. And then we also included our branding, making sure that we had our U logo in the same place on the same photo so everyone could identify that this belonged to the It Begins With You campaign. We use that hashtag obviously in all of them. We use the same font and the same placement of the logo. So you can see all of these stories are part of our It Begins With You campaign. They all have the logo in the right lower corner, and it's been really recognizable for folks that are trying to find us and know that we are starting to use this U. Excuse me. So this is just an example from one of our It Begins With You stories. We have the It Begins With You hashtag here. We have UCLA Patient Stories, UCLA Health. We include our handle in the story, and the story does look a little bit long, but sometimes you need a little more of an explanation with a story than just a few quick lines. We really try to experiment with everything that we do, and if we lower the word count to our stories, will it increase our likers, or is this long story going to deter people from liking it? Well, this one had over 251 likes for this story, and people will go back and find our other patient stories as well. This was another example of the It Begins With You campaign, and not only that, but we looped it into the National Volunteer Week too. That was the hashtag that was created by, I'm sure, the people that have put out or are doing the Volunteer Week, I guess. And so we utilized that hashtag on this particular image as well as our It Begins With You campaign, and really gave people something to talk about. And this actually had over 15 comments that people had posted to this particular image. This is another good example, a shorter story. The hashtags are used here, and then a lot of people like to comment on these, so they've been really, really good. I always joke about kids, pets, and food on Instagram because those ones always get lots of likes. So if any time that we can incorporate any of those kids, pets, or foods in our posts, we also try to do that. These are some of the results from the last month of just kind of our Instagram account in general. We've gotten great likes, a lot of engagement, a lot of commenting on some of our posts. So it's nice to be able to look and see, what are people liking? What are they not liking? How can we change this a little bit? And it is fair to mention that we not only post information for our hospitals, but we also post them for our Children's Hospital and the David Geffen School of Medicine. I think an important thing to note really quick here is that although I'm one person and we do have an agency that's now kind of helping us on a day-to-day basis to get our posting out, it's really hard to get really good traction on social networks if you don't dedicate some time to that and to really grow your audience and to grow your post and really find out, that sweet spot of what people are looking for when they're coming to your page. Are they looking and they commenting on more news? Are they looking for more patient stories? You just kind of have to experiment, but dedicate time and resources to really trying to figure out, how best to utilize your social networks. And it's great to have an Instagram account, but if you're not posting on it, then really what's the good of it, right? So some of the things that we're kind of looking at in addition to our continuing our It Begins With You campaign is utilizing video. Video is huge right now. It's huge for Facebook. It's huge for Instagram. So we've now started to ask that when we create videos for different programs or departments or for news pieces, that there be an accompanying, 1 to possibly 2-minute video clip that we can upload to YouTube, or we can upload to Instagram or upload to Facebook to really capture more engagement. Those videos, they really are helping out. We're going to start including more recipes. Speaking to that food note, people do like to see food. People like to see recipes, and we have a variety of recipes from our cafeteria that we've made in these great images that we'll be posting to our Instagram page soon. Another thing that we're going to be doing is kind of integrating our Instagram and our patient stories with this new blog that we're going to be rolling out at the end of the year. The blog will help facilitate more conversations and help people share their content more socially to one another. And I think that is really what social media is about. It's just about sharing. More contests, or looking at making some contests and how can we utilize Instagram to do that. And then also looking at some of the new capabilities that Instagram is trying to roll out. Looks like they're doing some ads and a few other things, but trying to see if that really is going to be a good fit for us. And occasionally when they do these things, they make it extremely expensive. So we're looking to see if some of these new capabilities that Instagram is coming out with will work for us. Some of the tools, I know that you guys some of them are asking about them, are Iconosquare, Union Metrics, and Mentor. And I was going to pop over to my screen over in Iconosquare so you can see what I'm talking about here. Let's see. Okay, it looks like we're on the right. So this is the back of Iconosquare. It's a free tool. You can pay for more, but we use the free version. So this will show you all of your posts that you've posted. It'll show you how many likes you're getting, how many comments you are getting on things, and each of these drills down a little bit more. We also spend some time liking other people's posts and pages that have something to do with us or something to do with UCLA, so we utilize that. And Iconosquare is really great because it shows you who your new followers are, how many followers you've lost, how many people are talking about your content, and it'll drill down even further. So this is where that analytics for the right now, or the time frame that we were looking at earlier, it'll show the growth and how it's moving, gains and loss. I mean, it's a really great free tool. It'll show you what posts people like the most. It'll even show you some better tools on when to post, how long it takes for folks to comment on your Instagram post, filters that tend to do better than others, and other tags and things that are being used on Instagram when we can. If it is applicable, we do use hashtags that are currently trending or are getting a lot of action on Instagram or on Twitter in our posts to help with engagement. And this is another really great portion of this tool as well too. It talks about your new followers, people that you may want to follow that might help in your engagement for your social networks. And we also, when we're looking at, I'm going to go back to the presentation, but when we look at who's following our social networks, we will do a variety of things. We'll go to our Facebook pages and find all of our Facebook users and see if they're currently using Instagram. We'll use our mailing list that we send out our e-blast to and see if we can't match up our users on Instagram and all the other social networks. So there's a few things that we do to try to create more engagement and get more of our users on Instagram or where they're at. So some of our best practices, like I said, to have a social strategy. For Instagram, it's better if it's tied into your overall social media strategy. So there you have an idea and a concrete idea of what you really want to post across all of your platforms. You can tweak all your content because Instagram tends to be a younger demographic and a more mobile friendly. So you may want to make sure that when you're looking at your whole entire social strategy that you're customizing each of these posts for the different platforms. Let's see. We also study a lot of other accounts. We look at our stats and we use those free tools like Union Metric and Iconosquare, but we do spend a lot of time looking at other social networks for entities. For instance, like Nike or Red Bull or even the airline industry. We look at what they're doing and study and seeing what their engagement looks like. How are they utilizing the platforms? How could we translate something that they're doing into something that we're doing to get more engagement? And we experiment a lot. We tweak things, we change things. We have to play around to find that sweet spot because no audience is going to be the same. You want to make sure that you're engaged. So you're liking some of your other audience's posts. Or if people are posting photos about their recent visit and they have a photo on their Instagram and they tag you in it, make sure that you're commenting back to those folks. Creating that two-way conversation is a big part of what social media is, and I think it's really important to make it successful. Finding those influencers and reaching out to them is also important. Branding, tagging, hashtags, mentions, locations are all things that will help get your posts more traction because people will look at, were they at a park that you were at, and they'll find your post. We also use our branded content, and we also use non-branded content as well to our posts. Not everything has a U on it. Some look more organic from events and things like that. So we just really kind of play around and use a little bit of everything. Let's see. I think that's all that I have for you guys, and love to take questions and check out our networks and see what we're doing and just experiment all over the place.
Great, thanks Ashley. Some really, really helpful information, and we had a lot of questions talking about, analytics, and as we saw with the poll before we got started, is understanding if you're having impact. So thank you so much. And maybe if there's anything you want to add to that, because we did have folks asking, you shared the tools for monitoring and tracking some of those analytics. Is there anything inside Instagram that you use that you might want to share if folks don't yet have the other tools that you use?
Instagram really doesn't give you a lot in terms of analytics, and so that's why we've gone to these other third parties. And like I said, a lot of those are free tools that you don't have to pay for, so we definitely take advantage of that. But Instagram is fairly stingy with their analytics and information.
Right, and so it is good to know about those tools. And if anybody else is using something along that line, for those that are on the continuum of using Instagram and kind of wanting to just take it to the next level, what are you using? Share it in the chat box, and we'll put that together with our resources doc after the event. And let's see, some of the other questions that came in were talking about how do you, we're talking about integrated communications plan. How are you linking the Instagram account with other social media tools like Facebook?
So right now we currently have a plugin in our Facebook site, and let me actually, hold on a second, and I can pull it up. But we have a plugin in our Facebook page that actually has our Instagram feed in it, so that's just one thing that we do. We'll also share our Instagram posts with Twitter so that the photo isn't uploaded directly to Twitter, but it comes from Instagram, so people can kind of see the connectedness and to see that not only do we have a Twitter, but on our Twitter we're sharing our Instagram so that they can find us on all of these different places. Let me bring up this Facebook page really quick. Okay. So see, we have our Instagram feed. So you can actually look at all the photos right here within Facebook. Another thing that we do is we include all of the icons on all of our web pages. We have a Get Social page, so we really try to promote our social networks.
That's great, Ashley, and I think that shows, meaningful ways to grow your followers, showing the connected and driving them to the different tools. Anything else in terms of how you were able to build your numbers of followers? Any other new ways?
Yeah, like I said, we really just tried to reach out to the people that were, tagging and liking our images. We would upload our email list from Constant Contact that we utilize for any newsletters that we send out and try to find our users there. We'll look at who's following us on Facebook and try to see if we can find them on Instagram. So it takes a little bit of time, but it can be really advantageous to take some time to really kind of cultivate your following, because those are the folks that will help you get your messages out there.
And speaking of cultivating following, there's a question here about the stories. I was curious how, because we started out the series about the importance of gathering stories and having the voices of the communities you serve present. And you share those great slides with the patient stories. Can you touch a little bit on the process of gathering those, working with the community, whether it's the patient or the family or the folks that are working at UCLA Health? What's the process for gathering those, crafting them, sharing them?
Yeah, definitely. Like I mentioned, we do have a photojournalist that we have given basically full access to all of our entities to go and talk to. But we are very connected with our media relations. We talk to all of the people that run our community clinics. So, from time to time we'll meet with folks that will say, oh, we have a really good patient story, or maybe it was a story that wasn't good enough to take to the media, but maybe it would be better served on social media. There's a lot of different ways that these stories come to us, or we go out there. We'll send her out to a department and she'll talk to patients and just to see what's going on. I think that people are definitely willing to share their stories a lot more than they used to be. It's not difficult to get HIPAA consent forms signed that much anymore, because people want to see themselves. People want to see people. So when we give them what they want and show them the people that make our organization run, which is our doctors and our employees, or we give the stories on how we're helping our patients and how we're saving lives and how we can promote better health, I think that in itself has been more engaging than anything else, to share these people's stories.
And Ashley, do you have incidents, or how have you worked with, if we do have organizations that do have to work with consent for photo releases, especially for patients. Is there something that you strategize for in doing that?
We just take them with us. We go out and say, would you mind talking to us? Would you mind if we put your story on our social media? And we've also retooled, or in the process of retooling, all of our media consent forms to include social media on them, because for the most part, when we're pitching a story to the media or we're putting it on our website, we're going to be sharing that to social media as well. So I think that it's just making sure that whoever you're interviewing or whoever you're speaking to as far as a patient is concerned really understands that your photo is going to be on our Instagram page, and it's not just going to be on our website, it's going to be everywhere.
And if somebody else has it as well, or Mega can share it as well, if there's a permission form or some language that you use for consent, or even if there's an app for it, I don't know if there's that.
That's a
thinking
great
about
idea,
an app for everything. Maybe we can share that in the resources doc, because Rachel had a question about that. And in talking about the photos, I think somebody had a question about, let's see here. Actually, it was about video. So the video that we can post on Instagram is not limited to 15 seconds. Can be longer.
No,
as you said, the 1 to 2 minute.
We actually went up to 30 seconds. But I guess the point that I was trying to make there is that we're making sure that our video content can fit within our social networks, so that we have 30-second video clips that we can load to Instagram, or we have a minute or less that we can load up to Facebook, because it definitely seems like loading those directly to the actual platform itself instead of linking to a YouTube page definitely is more beneficial than linking to a YouTube page. So having good video content that you can maybe link back to a YouTube page or maybe a landing page somewhere else is a good idea.
And Rachel, do you, and thinking about, we've been talking about multiple channels, in terms of management of that, do you use tools like Hootsuite or anything else to manage that?
We do use Hootsuite, and we're in the process of finding a magical be-all fantastic platform for all of this, but there doesn't seem to be one. So if anyone has any good resources, that would be, yeah, right? I'm like, if I could only just create my own, I would have everything I need. But we do use Hootsuite. We use Simply Measured occasionally. We use a lot of free tools to help us, really look at our engagement and the analytics on Facebook, Twitter, those type of things.
And speaking of engagement, Audrey had a question about, in her experience is finding engagement on tweets with links to Instagram are lower than, say, a tweet with a photo directly in Twitter. Do you find in your own experience that you're able to get a lot of new followers from Twitter? I think we have folks trying to figure out, well, of the tools we could be using, is this a good one to use?
Definitely. We have experienced both. Sometimes they do better with us uploading it directly to Twitter. Sometimes it does a little better if we're using it from Instagram. It's all about experimentation. I think the time of day actually matters too. I mean, Twitter moves so fast that sometimes it is better to have the photo in there. But like I said, we really just try to experiment and find what works best for us. And if it doesn't work the best with the Instagram, then we'll post it again a day later at a different time using another image that we've loaded up just to Twitter.
And Rachel had a question about tools like Flipagram and Instaframe. Sorry. Do you use any type of add-on like that?
Occasionally we do. We actually don't use it that much. When we do, for the most part, I normally have used those type of tools when we had, an event and we had multiple photos, and I didn't want to post, 20 photos at once of, one event that we went to. But we're finding that when we post multiple photos from the different event instead of using, the collage builders, it just tends to get a little more engagement.
Okay, good to know. And circling back a little bit on the issues of patient privacy, Audrey had a question about when a location tag is being added in the hospital in the Instagram post. Can you comment a little bit, does it violate HIPAA to comment on those photos when they publicly say they are here?
We have always, it's such a tricky question. If they are posting it, we operate by the rule that if a patient is posting something, we just try to use our best judgment. While we won't necessarily comment on everything that someone tags, that they're at the hospital, but I mean, if they've already made that information public, then we'll say, something kind of generic like, hope you feel better, or, things like that. We try to use our best judgment at all times, but the rules aren't 100% clear on things like that yet, and I think that they will be coming that way shortly, I think.
Great. And I think that I'm going to unmute Mega, because it would be great to hear from you both. You both have shared some really striking and compelling visuals, and this is a visual platform. And I'm just wondering if you both can kind of just revisit a little bit about the gathering those photos. This conversation about don't go to stock photo if you have to, I guess, but it's better to use authentic photos. Get in the habit of taking and creating an archive of your own photos to tell your own story. Can you share a little bit about that process and finding the time for it, and any tips?
kind of said it all right there, Lisa. I think that it definitely is better to use authentic photos as opposed to using stock photography. We will use stock photography when we need to, when we don't have an image that can accompany a post or a story or things like that. But we try to make sure that we're posting photos when we do of people looking at the lens, people looking directly at you because people like to see people. So we definitely do that. We try to stockpile photos as much as we possibly can, and we ask, when they go to events or when people are visiting our booths at an event or things like that, we definitely stockpile all those photos because we can use them down the road for TBTs or different things. So it's always helpful to have a nice repository of photos that you can go to at any moment.
Yeah, I would say it's similar for us as well. We would rather use like one of our own old photos than a stock photo. And we are throwing events and having things going on every day, meetings and things like that. And it just makes a lot more sense for it to be connected to the people that the cause is actually connected to than to use a stock photo, I think. And it would make a lot more sense to just use an old photo, even if it isn't from a specific event or something, just to show what you're doing. Because it's your organization kind of thing. So it takes a little bit of a sense of pride in that.
And I think, I'm not sure if there's more options now to have access to download free images that look more authentic than many of the older stock photos that were available before. I know there's like Pixabay and Creative Commons, looking on Flickr, and quite a few other sites like Unsplash, and quite a few different platforms to download photos. So we'll try and put those on the resources doc as well. And I think what I'd love to kind of wrap it up with you both on here is what do you feel is the most key takeaway in terms of using a tool like Instagram?
I would have to say kind of what I wrapped up with in my slides, that your specific cause or your specific health goal might not be something that everyone finds to be the most important, but you kind of have to give them a reason to believe it is. So yeah, sharing the people who are affected by what you do is definitely an effective tool, and just giving people reason to care is, I think, what's most important, because the whole point of social media is getting people engaged. So just give them something to talk about, and especially if it is related to your cause and what you do, then that's going to be the best thing.
Yeah, I mean, to echo kind of what Megan's saying is you got to make it about your audience. Your audience is always going to be thinking, what's in it for them? How does this help them? So when you think about how you're sharing and what you're sharing, think about how your audience will perceive it. And if it thinks about them, like if you win an award or something, thank them for making it possible, because they're always looking out, what's in it for me. So definitely focus on your audience. And don't be afraid to experiment as well. There's no wrong or right way to do things, and what will work for someone won't necessarily work for another. So I think that it's really important that you experiment and try different things to see what works best for you and for your audience.
Great. Well, thank you so much. You can't really hear hands clapping, but a lot of appreciation to both Ashley and Mega for a really great exploration of this tool and giving us a lot to think about, especially for those of us just getting started, and then some tools too for those that are already working with it, and how to understand best to really see if you're having some impact and measuring what those results are and learning from them and improving what you're doing. And, as both Mega and Ashley said, I hope that you'll find a way to take some action steps through experimentation, trying new things, and building from what we heard both from Ashley and Mega and from those that asked the questions and prompted some further discussion, think about what you can do with wherever you're at to kind of move the dial on furthering your goals around your cause, your community for using Instagram. And we would love to know how that's going. Check back with us. We will have a survey, a very brief one that comes up after the event. And we appreciate you sharing your thoughts on the presentation. And also, we will be sharing, as I said before, links to the recording, the slides, and resources with everyone after the event via email. And we'd love to just give you a big thank you to all of you that have joined us to make this a rich conversation. We love the participation. We appreciate you that have joined us for the first time, and also for those that come back and join the conversation repeatedly. It makes it a very rich dialogue, and we hope that you'll join us for our next webinar, which will be around tips and tools for creating some of those compelling images that we already saw shared here today. And if you have any questions for our speakers or for us, please be sure to reach out to us, and we will connect with you. And I think we'll leave it there a little bit early so everyone can get out and hopefully start beginning to take those steps and enjoy a bit of that summer that's out there, at least for us here, where there's a little bit sun. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the week.